Good day, everybody, and welcome to another edition of the Military and Foreign Affairs Network. I am your host, the voice of reason. Today, we're continuing our ongoing coverage of the war in Ukraine, the war between the Russian Federation and Ukraine, and other events. Obviously, Super Tuesday just occurred. Now, we are in such a dangerous period right now. And compounding that, incompetence intertwined with danger is lethal for a nation state. I had recently watched a very brief question and answer. Media questioning the alleged president of the United States, or United States, Joseph Biden. They asked him, and this question took about 3 or 4 seconds. But the response from Joseph Biden, the alleged president of the disunited states of America, the response should terrify you, whether you're on the left or you're on the right or in the center. His response to the question, something along the lines, why don't you secure the border? Joseph Biden's response was, I don't have the authority to secure the border with executive action. Doesn't have the authority. A blatant and outright lie. Because again, it is a purpose-driven plan by the leftist government in the United States to change the demographic of the United States, which will then create the opportunity for a one-party, unitary state. Now, at the same time, as you observe this utter incompetence in the White House, both natural incompetence via low IQ and just Joseph Biden is not a very intelligent man. Compounding that, he is suffering from dementia, which makes it worse. Now, the world right now is an incredibly dangerous place. More dangerous, I would argue, than any time during the Cold War. But here's the problem. You have a very large element of what I call uninformed urbanites, which is now a large part of the voting population through mail-in balloting and not taking accountability for having a process of where you must physically go and vote. But the uninformed left-leaning urbanite who is living now in apogee. And apogee is the pinnacle of civilization where you can simply break out your iPhone and order a gallon of vodka directly to your house, or whatever you want. Within minutes, it's here. Among other things as well. A dinner that would be fit for kings, say back in the Middle Ages, all the way until the 19th century, you can now have within a matter of minutes by simply pushing a button on your phone. That is apogee. It's not sustainable. Now, those individuals living in this apogee who are very much focused on popular culture as opposed to current events are very easily manipulated by the mainstream media. So, for instance, supporting the defense of Ukraine without fully understanding the backstory. So most of these uninformed urbanites in Western Europe and the United States support the defending of Ukraine, even with direct military power. Now, they do this without understanding, again, the backstory. Compounding this, if you take a map and you display this map of the world to these uninformed urbanites and you ask, where is Ukraine? 95% cannot show you on a map where the borderlands are. They can't do it. It is widely known that the vice president, the alleged vice president of the United States, Kamala Harris, a diversity, equity, and inclusion appointment, had no idea where the Ukraine was. And that person could be president at any moment. Terrifying. There's a book that exists. It is about the Soviet tactical experience in Afghanistan. The book is called The Bear Went Over the Mountain. It was released some time ago. It's out there. Now, will there be another book in the near future that will be released called The Eagle Died in the Sunflower Fields? Does the eagle die in the sunflower fields? Now, you can take that for what it's worth, and you can use your imagination in reference to that title. But we are fast approaching the point of no return. It is an incredibly scary time to be an informed American living amongst the uninformed urbanites. Terrifying. What happens with the election? Is it rigged? Is it even possible that President Donald Trump regains the presidency? Has the unitary one-party state, the Democrat Party, have they already secured that victory? And again, I've talked about this in other content regarding that whole concept of the capabilities of Joseph Biden, the competence of Joseph Biden, the fact that he is the most unpopular president in terms of people believing that he can do the job in American history. Yet, the unitary one-party state is perfectly fine with him running again. And again, the reason for that is, in all probability, they control the outcome. If they didn't control the outcome, they would have yanked him, and someone else would be running in his stead. But because he's a puppet, those in the secret cabal are able to continue to run the country with little interference from a strong president. and they're not worried about the outcome of the election. I hope I'm proven wrong. Yeah, for the love of God, I hope I am proven wrong and Donald Trump wins. But I fear that outcome has already been figured out. It's like the old WWF wrestling matches. A foregone conclusion on who's going to win. Now, we continue to watch what's happening on the ground as the war appears to be reaching new levels of both violence and the possibility of direct escalation with Western European nation states and possibly the United States. There is open talk that the French may send troops to directly support the Ukrainian military. There is talk about additional, more advanced German weapon systems, such as the Taurus, being sent to Ukraine. And then again, what will be the eventual Russian response. The war between Russia and Ukraine, there are going to be two outcomes. One outcome is there is eventually going to be some sort of peaceful resolution. In which there is a ceasefire and then in all probability a very shaky peace. Or there is going to be an outright victory by either the Ukrainians or the Russians. The probability of a Ukrainian victory is incredibly low. And the only option at this point for the West is direct intervention to try and directly support the Ukrainians. And that leads to World War III. The other option is a complete Russian victory, which the diversity, equity, inclusion hire of the current Defense Secretary of the United States says that World War III will occur if there is a Russian victory. Talk about caught between a rock and a hard place. So currently, there is no possibility of a peace agreement. And we will continue to see war. And war normally only escalates. And that's where we're at. That's where we're at. The front line. Not a lot of changes over the last couple of days. The Russians continue to methodically and very steadily move the front line forward. We continue to hear about the Ukrainian military in dire circumstance with its inability to recruit additional soldiers. More Ukrainian men of fighting age are now fleeing west into Romania, Moldova, Slovakia, Poland, Hungary, and other places that are being recruited into the Ukrainian military. Think about that for a second. You know, at one time, we observed that the Ukrainians had an overabundance of volunteers that were willing to join up. And that has changed dramatically. Because the course of the war has changed dramatically, and we're seeing that on the ground. The losses of Ukrainian forces are staggering. Staggering. And the Russians will continue this using its superior military industrial capacity, its superior quantitative edge in its manpower pool. And ultimately, that is what is going to win the war. The Europeans are just starting to play catch up in terms of figuring out that there is a lack of industrial capacity to manufacture arms and munitions. The Europeans have let their defensive capability atrophy. So besides just having the capability of defending themselves, they're not in a position right now to supply the Ukrainians with an endless amount of munitions and ammunition. They're not able to do that. So that is where we are at for today. There's obviously going to be some talk about the destruction of up to 3 or 4 M1A1 Abrams. Again, that is not a very big issue in terms of how the conflict is going to go. A battalion set of M1 Abrams is not going to change the outcome of this conflict. And it's really nonsensical to report on it. Just as the sinking or the destruction of one Russian patrol ship by a seaborne drone is not going to change the outcome of the war. Now, the West is using that incident as a perception of success. But ultimately, the success is going to be who wins the front lines, who is able to drive the front forward and destroy the enemy on the battlefield. And that's where we sit. More to come. As always, have a good day.